And Erica said how ironic it was that Jeremiah was killed on Berliner Straße, because her father came from Berlin. This was Jerry's first visit back to Germany. So, of course, I think Tannenbaum was a bit moved by this. So he said, Jeremiah did a very brave thing at one of the meetings. He said, when the Jews were being blamed for the problems in the world, he stood up and said, well, I'm Jewish, how does that place me? So he did a couple of things that exposed himself to a bit of danger without realizing it. Just by being British was one thing. And if you look around you on some of these cover stories, and in other writings that we discovered months later, the Tavistock Institute, according to LaRouche's writings, is a center of brainwashing. And again, Jeremiah said, I know the Tavistock. I've been to the Tavistock. He'd been there once as a 10-year-old. When Eric and I were getting divorced, we were advised to go to the child's not psychiatric, the counselling. You sit in a room and then everybody explains that parents are getting divorced. It doesn't mean that we don't love you and all this. So we had this one meeting at the Tavistock, which is a very highly respectable institute. However, again, Jeremiah happened to say he knew the Tavistock. So this seems crazy, but of course afterwards we found out why it was important. And we subsequently were found out from members who were in the room, who were at the EIR offices, which are the Executive Intelligence Review offices, 400 or 500 meters where Jerry was killed. The cadre group were assembled at around 9 o'clock that morning, 9:30, and some of them said that the management people, the senior members, were running around, as we say in English, like headless chickens. This was crisis management. And finally, Helga LaRouche addressed the meeting and said, Jeremiah Duggan is dead. Didn't give any explanation. We do not wish you to discuss this amongst yourselves, and do not talk to others about this. And now you can go. So, of course, the next day we were at the police station. They've already had a statement from Frau Kramer and the other student, and in this there was they'd concocted a story which I don't believe it's true, and I'd stand up in court and I would challenge this. The events that happened that evening of Jeremiah staying in the house of Rainer Appel, who is one of the editors of the magazine, the EIR, and then running at 5:30 in the morning, 4 or 5 kilometers out of Wiesbaden towards Erbenheim, past the railway station, and eventually when he was killed with a full bladder as it happened, all sorts of things like that. But anyway, we've had our own forensic pathologists investigating this scene, and of course we've uncovered lots of new evidence regarding the damage to the cars couldn't be caused by a human body. There's no evidence that he was run over even. So that's a whole new thing I'm not going to get into. But in the German police report, the police were very keen to take every statement that could possibly help the cause of, again, having, this was that afternoon, the report said when we translated it, that Frau Kramer had stated that, he had a history of mental illness from the Tavistock Psychiatric Hospital. So there were lies in there. The other thing Sebastian said, when he had spoken to the girlfriend and she wanted to know where Wiesbaden was, she said, she was looking on the map and she said, is it near a river? The police interpreted that in their report that he was looking for a river to jump into, because the Rhine, as you know, is about 3 kilometers south of Wiesbaden. So, of course, we couldn't believe this. Now, at our original meeting with this Herr Schrecker, I said to him, why would anybody commit suicide in front of cars? The chances are you could be maimed for life. You could end up in a wheelchair. So he said, oh, this happens all the time. I said, I've never heard of anybody committing suicide by running in front of cars. Once or twice, people have jumped in front of trains on the underground, but it's very rare. So at this stage, he was getting exasperated. He even wrote in his report that there was something about a phone call. He didn't even give it, didn't write down the words. There was something about a phone call that he made to the mother. And of course, interestingly, again, LaRouche, in one of his subsequent publications, said, what did the mother say that drove her son to suicide? So that just shows you how twisted this organization is, that they would actually come out with an outrageous statement like that. Also, Schrecker, there's another statement that he made that was, anyway, in the police report, he just said the parents seem to have difficulty coming to terms with their son's suicide, which is absolutely disgraceful. Now, as it happened, Jeremiah did send me a birthday card, which I'll finish off on, because this was the 22nd of March, 5 days before he died. This is just a photocopy. You know your birthday's the first day of spring, I think. Sorry I can't be there to celebrate it with you, but I'll be back. I'll be back real soon for Easter holidays. The card's meant to represent your new decade, the opening of a new door, and that. Anyway, see you soon. Lots of love, Jeremiah. And also, as it happened, this was 2 weeks before Easter. The following week, his sister was going to go out to Paris, and they were making a series of translation tapes. So there was so much good stuff going on in his life at that time that, of course, we say to ourselves, what went on in those last few hours? And of course, the other significant statement was Helga LaRouche, just to finish off what she said when she dismissed the meeting. We believe Jeremiah Duggan was a spy sent to harm the organization. And of course, then months later, we're reading what goes on with the Dennis King book refers to the Manchurian candidates. They believe in people being brainwashed, in this case by the Tavistock Institute, that he was going to go there. This is the sort of paranoia that they instill in their group and others, that they could actually believe that Jeremiah was sent out there to do an assassination in some way, to assassinate the group, which is absolutely ridiculous. So these are one or two of the suspicions I have, because any organization that would have found themselves with the death of one of their meeting, they would have cooperated, they would have helped, but instead they lied to the police. They gave statements they weren't qualified to make. How could somebody make a statement that Jeremiah was a psychiatric case when she hardly knew him for more than 3 or 4 days? And again, we would not have seen the actual statement if it hadn't been sent over, if it hadn't been demanded by the British Foreign Office and translated. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now.